Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Justin Jackson with another episode of the Real Chat Podcast. And I am sitting here today with Helena Gato with Gato Workplace Conflict Resolutions. She has Gato Solutions. And this is a space where today we're going to talk about how we can handle certain situations in the workplace. How you
Mm-hmm.
doing?
I'm good, Justin Jackson. It's nice to be here.
Definitely, definitely. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Whew. Uh, I am originally from New Zealand, so nobody has to ask me if I'm from Australia. I am not.
Oh, wow.
Uh, yeah, I
I
know.
don't
You know
I don't
someone
think we
who's
ever talked
Samoan.
about that.
Really?
Yes,
I
yes,
grew
because
up with a
my
lot of Samoans, and and so I know you were just telling me about your partner and
yes,
her strong personality, and I know people like that. Yeah.
she has family that's, from New Zealand,
Oh,
and she is in love with the All Blacks. So
oh, if yes, who is not in love with the All Blacks? I
right.
actually my first career was a physical therapist, and I actually used to physio some of the All Blacks, and they
Wow.
are some big dudes. Like their
Yes.
bodies are massive. Yeah, it's
I I never really watched rugby, growing up, but then I started watching it with her, and we watch all these videos. Actually, we just watched a video where Parliament, it was on a TikTok, and they were in
uh-huh,
Parliament, and they were trying to get something to pass. So they began to do a haka.
uh-huh.
So
Oh
it's like
yeah.
the lady, yes, she gets up and the guy that is in a suit and tie, and yeah, she rips up the paper they had, and she's like, and then all of a sudden, like 15 of them got up and started doing this in Parliament.
Oh.
And I'm like, wow. I was like, you imagine that happening in the White House where they just start like, we don't like this.
Banging out chairs and blah, blah. Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Perfect.
Warriors, such warriors.
That's great. But so
So
what is it?
yes.
Conflict
Mhm.
resolution. What does that mean? Like for the audience?
Well, so basically, everybody, I would say probably everybody listening here knows what it's like to be in a toxic work environment, to
Mhm.
just not want to go to work or have somebody at work that you just don't want to run into in the hall, someone that you just cannot communicate with. Everything's hard. That really is the conflict that I'm talking about. So it happens initially with a breakdown in communication between people. And then how do you repair that? Because that doesn't just repair on its own. You don't suddenly just go, oh, well, let's just let that all go and I'll just reset. A
Right.
lot of people don't do that, and it just kind of escalates. So I get brought in to when there is a team that's like that. People are
Okay.
walking on eggshells, and they're needing someone to help them get to the other side of it so they can work well.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm glad you said that, walking on eggshells, because it happens a lot where you got different personalities on the team, and then you are, trying to navigate that without being disrespectful. Everybody has a life outside of work, so you have to make
Hmm.
your money. You have to be able to keep your job, and
Hmm.
sometimes it's like you put up with so much just so you can keep your job,
Yeah.
so how's
Yeah.
something that what would you suggest, for someone that is walking on eggshells?
Oy. Uh, it's very difficult. I mean, it's just such a broad situation. So
Mhm,
let, let's get more specific. So let's say you're an employee and you have a manager that you feel like you just can't get it right.
mhm,
Uh, my I would suggest trying to have open conversations, like trying to sit down and understand that other person. I think the first piece, the first step is to listen, to
mhm,
try to understand uh, the other person and let them feel heard. And then once they feel heard, they're much more inclined to listen to you and hear you.
Right. So effective communication first and foremost.
Oh,
Oh,
yes, because most conflict comes from the opposite of effective communication.
right, right. So yeah, I want to be heard. You want to be heard. I don't care what you have to say. So
I've
okay.
made all these assumptions about you. I
Mhm.
it's personal. I think you're a horrible person. It's like, yeah.
Right. Well, I think in my experience, a lot that and I'm sure you've experienced this too in the workplace and doing what it is you do, that a lot of times you don't really, we only go to work with these people. So we don't
Mhm,
really know them on a personal level.
mhm.
So until you actually have a conversation with them and actually get to know a little bit about their personal life or maybe what they're going through, then you can have a decent conversation because you know a little bit more about this person. Or is it safe to say that you realize this is just a shit person and I don't wanna talk to him anymore?
The truth is most people aren't shit people. Most
Mhm.
people are just going through something. Like we all do have a lot going on, and most people aren't trying to be assholes.
Right. Okay.
And I
That's a
think
good way
that's
to put it.
it's good to hold that in your mind. Like this person probably is not trying to be awful. And
Right.
and so then actually trying to understand that person and why they're saying what they're saying or doing what they're doing. Humanizing somebody makes it a lot easier to navigate your way through uh, those kind of communication breakdowns.
Right. That's very interesting that you said that because a lot of time that happens within like the court system, because you look at a file. It's just a file that you're looking at. You're not meeting somebody where they're at. These sometimes people come through that are really going through problems and issues in their life. And as a prosecutor or district attorney, you have one job to do. That's to look at that
Mhm,
file and
mhm.
to push that case through the best way you know how with the information that you have. So um that's very interesting that
Yeah, and you're not dealing with people at the best moment in their life, right? And they're probably not the best version of themselves because there's so much stress. You're in the system and you lose control. Like you've
Mhm.
lost your real sense of authority. And so you're dealing with somebody who is not is not in an empowered situation.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and I think that that's something similar to workplace dispute resolution. I go in there and I'm typically dealing with people who are not the best version of themselves.
Okay.
Like they're angry or they're just hating on the person. They're quiet quitting. They're doing whatever it is, but they're really just trying to survive. They're just trying to keep
Right.
their job, or they're just trying to. A lot of people are, they're just like, I'm just keeping my head down and just trying to get through it. But
Right.
that's not really a way to live long term. I get it.
Right.
You have to put your head down and get on with it sometime for as long as you need to, but at the same time, there's empowering a person to realize that it's a job and they can get another job, right?
Right. Right. So it's kind of like don't let someone make you feel less than
Mhm.
than what you are as a person. So like I hear you use the word empowering. And that's amazing because everyone needs to have that boost of hope that they're better, they can be better. They can always do better. So in a job, I like to say a lot of times that a job is just a vehicle. It's a vehicle to get you to the next destination. So you're just moving through this job, whether it's something that, if it's something you love and you honestly have a passion for, then obviously you want to stay there. But other than that, don't let anyone demeanor you or make you feel less than, so that's amazing. So can you tell
Yeah.
me what does your
It
day to day look like when you do
oh,
this?
so depending on the contract, depending on the company, for
Mhm.
example, I'm currently working with a hospital. So I will have people reach out to me and say, "Hey, I just heard from so and so that maybe I could reach out to you and maybe you'd help me with the situation that I'm having with this person, and but I don't really want anyone to know that I'm reaching out to you. And so then I'll reach out to them and we'll have a chit chat, and they'll work out that what they can do next. And I will put them in an empowered place to not feel like they're being victimized by their situation, right?
Okay.
So day to day, it really depends, because some days I'm on location, like on site, and working back-to-back meetings, doing one-on-ones, maybe facilitating a conversation with a whole team, trying to
Hmm.
get them to a place where they can communicate. They can sort of agree on the rules of engagement. Like,
Right.
this is how we're going to communicate. And when this happens, we're going to have a safe word and say, hey, Gucci, or whatever it is.
Okay.
So, and I love working with my friends. I have some people that I really love as human beings, and so I get to travel with them and go to
Right.
work with them, and then go back to the hotel and have a glass of wine and shoot the shit about all the
Right.
shit
About
that
what
we've done that day.
transpired and
Yeah,
what you
I
can
mean
do better.
I freaking love it. It's really satisfying, because the suffering that goes on when you're in that toxic work environment and you feel completely powerless to change it. Like, you asked that question, you're in a toxic work and walking on eggshells. What
Hmm.
can you do? It's like, it is so hard. Like, when you're in it, sometimes you don't have a lot of power to change it. You
Right.
just kind of have to get through it. And so to be the team that comes in is like, hey, we know this has sucked, and it's sucked for a really long time, but we're here to help you. Tell
Right.
us, like, what do you need? How can we help you? Who needs to be fired? Even though we're not going to be able to fire them, it's just like, they're like, I
Right.
want to fire that person and I want to do this. So it is actually really rewarding, because people can go from a really toxic, difficult situation to a much more high functioning place quite quickly
Right. Right.
when certain things are shifted, right? For
Hmm.
example, I'm working with two teams who hate each other, and they have these two leaders. And the reality is, there's a leader that isn't communicating with this leader, and is communicating the wrong shit to these people, and
Hmm.
it's has kind of created the thing. So we're like, why don't you just move her over here, and then move everybody over here, and just that in itself changes everything. I've, I've been
Wow.
getting text message. Been getting emails like, "Oh my god, thank you so much. I was literally going to quit in December. I couldn't take it any longer, and now I'm okay." And just
Right. Well, I think because you got them to open up and get everything out on the table, and I think that's the biggest part of it, is getting everything out on the table. Because if you just hold it in and
yes,
bottle it up,
yes,
then people
yeah.
get hurt, people get fired, people, quit, and the job at hand does not get done. So
That is key. The safety, creating the safe environment for people to actually be honest, to get it out on the table. That is such a key piece to what we do.
that's awesome. Because I used to do so I used to be a quality engineer. So I
Hmm.
did quality work, lean, processes, and have you ever heard of you know, uh so we used to go into companies, and when I did quality, we had a guy come in, a corporate guy, and he kind of did a little bit of what you do, but he worked for the company. And he
Hmm.
would get all the teams together, the quality team, the safety team, the maintenance team, all production, and we would all get together for about a week, and we would, revamp, say, a line at the company.
Hmm.
And you got all these different departments that kind of are like, you're not doing your job, you're not doing your job, but now we all get to sit together and for a week, and we partner up, with somebody from a different department, and we walk out on the line and we ask the employees, hey, what do you think we could do better? Where do you want to put this machine? Do you think we can structure it this way? And over that week, you got to know each individual better,
Hmm.
and they would have these little like bonding moments where we would have to draw a pig, and but they wouldn't tell you how to draw the pig, you know and it's kind of about following directions. And if I didn't tell you how to draw the pig, because it was just a simple design where you draw like a little W and that turns into the tail, and then you draw an M and connect another, and when it was explained to you properly, you drew a perfect pig, you know. Without that, I had a pig that looked like a dog. I didn't know what I was doing. So there's like all these different pictures, but it was funny for
Right.
everybody. It was a
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
team building experience, and then we got to share our findings and what we all came up with as a team to the corporate leaders and all the investors. You know,
Mhm.
and it was a great experience. So I really can see the value in what you do,
Mm.
on a different level.
Mhm.
So how
See
long
that.
have you been doing this?
So, 14 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I said, I started as a physical therapist. Then I won
Mhm.
a trip on the radio and from New Zealand. And then I won a
Oh,
green
wow.
to America. And then I
Okay.
won a green card. So I moved to America. I thought I wanted to get into the film industry, which is why I'm in Los Angeles. And
Okay.
then very quickly realized I didn't want to get into the film industry. It was
So
pretty
you
toxic.
won you won
Oh,
tell me about
let's
that.
go
You
back to
won a green
that.
card. So
Yeah. Yeah. I know. It was,
so they
it's
were just like,
amazing.
"Okay, did you
Those
just,
two things
pick a
literally,
name out of a hat?"
yeah, no, it's called the diversity lottery. So, what? Countries that don't immigrate a lot to America get a certain amount of potential green cards
Okay.
each year, and so New Zealand is one of those places. And
Beautiful.
you apply, and I guess 500 people I think get picked, and you have to tick certain boxes. You can't come over if you're, if for certain reasons, but you tick the. And I'm saying that because Trump said, I heard him on the radio say, these countries, they send us their throwaways, like they're criminals and they're the worst people that they don't want. They send them over here where they just
They
give
eat
them
our
green.
cats. They eat our
And
dogs.
I'm like, no, that's not what it is. That's not what it is. No.
Right.
Anyway, and so that totally changed the whole trajectory of my life,
Wow.
coming to America and having a green card. So, and then from there, I went back to business school. I realized that I did not want to be in the industry. It's just, me
Well, you should
too.
maybe try staying in the industry. Do a Coming to America New Zealand edition.
Oh, I got a great one for that. I literally, just like Eddie Murphy in that movie, I couldn't cross the street. I came in and I landed at LAX and I stayed at this hotel on Century Boulevard, and it
Mhm.
has all these lanes, and I had never crossed. I didn't need to use the crosswalk light button. I didn't even know that you should do that. And I kept darting in and out of traffic trying to get
You're like,
across the
"Oh,
street. I
wait a minute."
couldn't.
So is New Zealand a little more like where you're from in New Zealand? Is it a little more big city or smaller city or country?
Yeah, it's very well. Where I'm from is very country. Like it's
Okay.
most of New Zealand is country. There's some big cities: Auckland, Wellington, Christchurch.
Okay.
Uh, but I was not from that area. Like I was from the country, and yeah, and it
o-
was many years ago. My accent was so strong when I landed in New York. The woman couldn't understand what I couldn't understand what she was saying to me, and and she couldn't understand what I was saying to her.
So it's great you got into conflict resolution and learning to communicate with people. That's awesome. That's awesome. So so how you know so how long did it take you to build up to what you're doing now? For the audience, because I like to
Okay.
empower
Let me
people.
tell a story. All right. So, the truth is, I know I'm white, and, people have an assumption about me, but I came as an immigrant, right? I didn't
Mhm.
have any money. I didn't know anybody. It's very difficult to drop into a country where you don't know anybody. You have no resources. You can't get
Sure.
the secondhand couch from your brother. Like you've literally got nothing.
Mhm.
So, and then the man that I married is the same. He comes from Japan, from a rice farm in Japan.
Oh, wow.
And so, and anyway, so um, once it takes quite some time. I feel like I'm about 10 years behind myself because it took some time to kind of just not be
Adjust.
completely broke
Mhm.
and just doing the kind of jobs that you do when you don't have an education, because my
Right.
education didn't matter. Like you can have a physical therapy degree, but it doesn't matter. And like, you've got to go back to school and do it again to
Right. It's
be
kinda
in your
like doctors coming over here from another
right,
country. That
right.
doctor degree
So
doesn't mean
yeah,
anything really.
exactly. So I did random jobs and just random things. So um, once I went back to school, and by the way, I'm going to say this, I had to sit that goddamn GMAT a number of times to get the good enough grade,
Ri
because I had been out of school and I had been, just whatever. My brain was mush,
right.
and everybody I knew was living a different life, and I'm trying to now study and go back to school. It was really, it was challenging. So, but I managed to get into school and to the MBA, and that, by the way, everybody has a group in school, right?
Right.
There's the hip, the young white boys, and then there's the kids that are from Asia, and then there's the Indian kids, and then there's the African American, and like everybody has their group. Well, I was like an older white chick from New Zealand.
Right.
There was
Where's your
no
group?
group for me. Like I just was like, somebody
Where's my
help
group?
me. I got no group. Oh my God. So anyway, and then I ended up in my MBA. I ended up realizing I loved negotiating, mediation and negotiation, just sitting there and trying to solve a problem. I
Mhm.
could be in that room for 5 hours and then be, what? And so I came out of that degree, went and got a master's in dispute resolution,
Okay.
and then promptly got pregnant. And so had a baby, had another baby, and then and then got pregnant again, like within 3 years. And
Oh,
then
wow.
these women that I'd been in business school with were like, so I want to do that. Like, I want to get married and have children, and I don't even have a boyfriend. And like, there are these women that have been really focused on their careers and just were so like, oh, look, Helena just did that. How do you
Right,
do that?
right. Here you are pushing through school, creating a family, making your bones in America.
So anyway, so then that's that kind of that started the coaching piece for me. I started coaching these really interesting people who really wanted to make big changes in their lives.
Right.
And I don't have a lot of fear. Like, I'm just not a fearful person. And so that, I think, is what I sort of brought to the table. You could do that. What, you want to start a yoga retreat? Just quit your corporate job and let's do it.
Right.
And so um that was a really amazing experience and allowed me to work from home, have a bunch of kids, make money. And then I slowly started getting into sort of like women's empowerment, like really like as a woman, and how to present, how to succeed in the workplace, how to prioritize, like how to be a woman as well. Like,
Right.
the workplace is very masculine. And so how to be in there and feel like you're a part of the place, that you're not having to adjust yourself to be so masculine. And
Right.
and and so that was sort of my entry into it. And then I started sort of being brought in by these women and being like, oh, we need your help in the office. I've got this team and this and that. And so it just slowly started to evolve. And then, I mean, I realized that I freaking loved it. And I also realized that there's a real gap in the workplace of when there is conflict,
Mhm.
how to resolve it isn't really there. There's HR. No one wants to go to HR. I mean,
Right. It's like
God
going to
bless.
detention. It's
Yes,
like
and also, I don't wanna go to HR about my boss about this, because that's gonna just flag a situation that I'm not sure I wanna have flagged yet. I'm not sure if it
right.
is what how can I navigate this myself? And
I think we froze.
oh, I'm back. My camera
Yep.
suddenly
You're
disappeared.
back. I know. I got you back. I know. I was like, we froze for a minute.
So, um, but speaking to sort of the climate, the workplace, the climate now, I think there's such a need for the ability to support people navigating their way through difficult conversations. There's just so much. There's a lot of sensitivity. We want to have diverse perspectives in the workplace, but how do you communicate your way through that? Like, how do I understand someone who is completely different than me, and how do they understand me? And we both coming from good places, but we're our way through
Right.
it.
Right.
So yes, so that's kind of like the evolution of it. I was kind of knocking on, hey, you guys need this, you need this, for a while, and then now it's just sort of the timing of it.
So
It's
did
there's
it
a
start at
lot
a
more
place
happening.
that you worked at? Is that how it kind of started? Was it a place that you worked at, or did you
No,
realize
it's
that you needed it in that place and then you took it outside
I
on your
started
own?
I well, there's 2 phases. One phase was that I was actually coaching somebody who was a high conflict person,
Okay.
and the company realized, well, he also realized, he was like, "Please help me.
Right. Right.
I'm not really good at any of this people stuff. I just don't understand why people don't just get the job done." And he was sort of like dropping bodies as he went. And so the company had me coaching him, and then I started coaching the whole team.
Okay.
And the team just kept growing and growing and growing, and became like went from 1 million to, I think, 20 million in income, just with this one team in this company
Right.
within a year. So that's sort of where it started. And then um, there were just, and to be honest, the pandemic hit.
Mhm.
I had a number of these situations, and the pandemic hit, and everything, all my jobs, like I was thriving, full, and then the pandemic hits. There's no workplace conflict because nobody's in the workplace,
Right,
right?
everybody's
So,
working from home, so they're
right.
kinda in the comfort of their own home. They're comfortable in having their meetings online. They don't have to be in this person's space. Um, and I think that's a big thing. That's because, when you look at it, like you were saying, there this person just can't understand why they can't get the job done. There's different leadership roles, there's
Hmm.
different styles of leaders.
Hmm.
And I think that's a big thing to understand, and I'm sure you explain that, pretty well when you deal with people, as you got to figure out what their leadership style is, and then mold a way for people to communicate and get along around that, you know.
Yes, and leadership is a skill that you develop. We don't
Yes,
just get born as, oh, I'm a leader.
I'm gonna be the boss.
I'm the boss. It really is something that, that particular person was incredibly good at what he did, but didn't have much, any training on how to manage people, how to lead people.
Right.
And you can't just tell someone, like, so his leadership style, his natural leadership style didn't work. So it was about,
You said that perfect, because people, they definitely, they become a leader, but they don't know how to manage people,
right.
and I tell my kids this all the time. I'm like, "Hey, like my younger brother, for example, my mom and my sister both worked with him, and he was kind of in charge, the manager,
Mhm.
and just he would talk to my mom and be like, "You better go do." I said, "Hold on. First of all," I said, "That's your mom." I said,
I talked to
"You
mom
don't
like
deal with
that.
your mom like there's just a regular employee." And he's like, "Well, she don't want to listen." And I'm like, "Dude, she's like 30 years older than you. Like, of course she's not gonna listen to you." So I told him, like, you should probably go to some classes that help you become a better manager, some courses.
Well, I think it's about it's the leadership piece. Like, people, there's the management style, but really today we need more leadership than management,
Right.
right? Because people will follow a leader, and that doesn't require a lot of management.
Right. Well, typically a
Right.
manager listens to the leader.
Right.
He's only dishing out those orders that he gets from the top. So,
Yeah.
well, that is amazing, what it is you do, and I definitely would love to have a part 2 to this conversation, because I think you have a lot of good insight, that can help a lot of the viewers out there that are dealing with these situations at their workplace. And, before we end this call, I would definitely, can you tell us how the audience can reach you if they need some conflict
Well,
resolution?
LinkedIn, of course, LinkedIn. But also, I would be so happy if people sent you like they obviously know how to get hold of you.
Mhm.
If they want to reach out to you and be like, Justin, I got this going on, you know, and then we could have a another like part two where we talk about people's difficult situations and how best to navigate them.
Definitely.
Because I think there is just there's such a people really underestimate the impact of working in a toxic place. I know you are really good at it. I know that you're somebody that has the ability just to push through. And I think part of that is because you have a vision. It is a vehicle for you. You have a
Mhm.
vision of where you want to go, which is what helps you, push through some of the day-to-day bullshit,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Uh,
I deal with it, third shift. I go to work and there's people I don't want to see, don't want to work with, but at the same time, I understand it's a vehicle. It's getting me to my next destination. HR says, "Hey, do you want to learn something new? Do you want to move up?" And I'm like, "No." I was like, "I just want to come in, I want to get my money and I want to go, because I'm building something else." So, it's kind of like and I just brush it off, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, is it really that does it really bother me that much? I'm going home. I'm going home to see my loved ones and my family. I don't have to take that home with me, you know, in my day to day.
yeah, and the thing is because it is a vehicle, you can let it go. But for some people, it isn't like it is their
It's their
current it's
permanent
their
place.
current destination. And I think really being clear, I think valuing the fact that if you're in that shit, like if you're in that place, really realizing that life is too short for that. You want to have you if it is a vehicle to something else, if it's not the thing, and to
Right.
be really honest about it not being the thing, because that can suck the life out of you. And it's one thing to do it for a couple of years because you know where you're going, but it's something to stay in. And I see this with the people that when I go in places and they've been there for years and they don't feel like they can leave. And it's really killing them. It's
Hmm.
really sucking the life out of them. So I guess my final words were like, if you're any of your viewers are in that kind of situation that just feels like it's sucking the life out of them, uh, find use it as a vehicle. It's not the
Hmm.
destination. And if you want to email Justin and tell him about it, and then I'll and come back on and help you work through it.
Definitely, definitely. Thank
Or
you.
also, and then my business is gotosolutions.com. Well,
Yes. And
Goto,
where else can they find you? In your
LinkedIn.
Instagram,
I've
LinkedIn.
got, yeah, I've got my podcast called Resolutionary Leaders that you've
Yes.
been on, and
Yes.
you can find Justin on
Awesome.
there. Uh, yeah, Insta, all of that stuff.
Definitely. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join us on the Real Chat podcast. And to my viewers, we're definitely going to have a part two. There's going to probably be multiple episodes because I have a lot of people that need some conflict resolution in their lives. And you guys stay tuned. But thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Justin.
All right. You have a wonderful rest of your day. And
Thank you
we
very
salute
much.
you for everything that you do.